do you actually imagine when you hear the phrase climate change? Is it this or this? Do you listen to her or him? If you want to cut through the noise and complexity and figure out what's actually heading our way, there's a barrier we have to overcome. It's the one in our heads. This is your 5-minute focal point. If you want to understand climate change, know this. If you're anything like most people, your brain will attempt to downplay and disengage. You need to arm yourself against this first. Deep down, none of us want it to be real, or have to change our ways. So our psychological instincts steer us away from suggestions that our way of life is under threat. There's nothing to feel bad about, it's simply human nature. We all have a tendency to think it's either future generations will be affected, or that technology that doesn't exist yet will save us, or that it's another country's problem. We often don't even hear the message if the messenger doesn't have our trust. It doesn't help that those with a lot of money at stake have an interest in making the science seem contested, which helps explain why little action has been taken, despite the risks. And not knowing those risks is a gamble. It's a lot more than polar bears. The coronavirus pandemic has shown that our modern world is far more fragile than we took for granted. We need to understand what will happen if we don't change course. Without getting alarmist, we can acknowledge that hotter and more extreme weather would harm billions of lives. So we get a bit bleak, but there is light on the other side. We're going to break things down into 3 levels of impacts: extreme weather, basic needs, and peace and prosperity, focusing on examples from countries that contribute the most towards warming. The key words with weather are more frequent and more intense. As the planet heats up, more and hotter heat waves will make everyday life difficult for millions of people and risk the lives of those unable to cope. Heavier rainfall will hit places prone to flooding, while increasing frequencies of devastating wildfires and hurricanes will leave less and less time for places to recover. Secondly, the changing climate will start to impact our basic needs. Food production will be hit on numerous fronts, with each extra degree of heat alone found to reduce key crop yields by 10%. This will push up prices, while the world's already hungry population continues to grow. Warmer, more acidic oceans would also deplete fish stocks. Areas such as southern Europe would be hit by increasingly frequent droughts, with side effects on our health through dust storms and harmful to breathe air. Our health could also be affected by diseases released through melting permafrost and spread by mosquitoes roaming to newly warm areas. People could start to lose access to basic shelter, with millions already living in areas that are lower than the projected rise in sea levels. Finally, all of this will hit our planet's prosperity. Getting to work will be harder, as rail and roads not designed for heat warp and melt. If you do make it in, heat and pollution will make it harder to concentrate. Some sectors such as real estate would be hit harder than others, and more heat has been linked to more crime. In some areas, peace itself could be threatened by tensions from water scarcity, a factor in the wars in both Yemen and Syria. Both wars and areas becoming uninhabitable will force people to flee to other countries at an unprecedented scale. Between destruction from extreme weather and competition for land and resources, our global economy could be a lot more fraught, desperate and unstable. So is it too late to stop the chaos? The good news is no, just. The pandemic has shown we are capable of a swift, widespread response to a crisis. Lockdown has temporarily reduced emissions, buying us just enough time to start making real change. The United Nations have said if we do this rapidly in the 2020s, we can turn things around. It's too easy to think of this as a deadline, similar to many others that have already slipped. It's better to think of it like blasting through your savings and piling up debt. Yes, you should have slowed down yesterday, but today is still better than tomorrow. And there are real benefits to acting as quickly as possible. While it's possible the risks are overstated, we do know there are a number of negative feedback loops we don't fully understand yet. These include forest fires destroying natural carbon capture, thawing permafrost releasing stored methane, and melting ice caps reflecting less sunlight. If we underestimate these, we risk losing control and ending up closer to a doomsday scenario with permanently flooded cities, vast unlivable areas, and widespread food and water shortages. This might sound scary, but it reminds us it's always worth taking action today to avoid a worse scenario down the road. The Paris Agreement set the aim of keeping warming well below 2 degrees, but we failed to get emissions down. Things like long-haul flights are difficult to substitute, but it's the total cumulative emissions that count, rather than how quickly we can completely eliminate them. The faster we pick the low-hanging fruit, the longer we have to figure out the hard stuff. But what can we do to prevent chaos? Well, there are real changes both individuals and governments can make. Two are linked. Only governments can act at scale, but that won't happen unless we tell them to. So we need nearly everyone to understand what's at risk and why they need to play their part, either through demanding politicians act, or just accepting the changes that come when they do. This means you have a massive role to play. Speak to your friends, family and colleagues. If you want one thing you can do today, share this video. We can fix this and even build something better, but only if we do it together.
Thanks so much for watching. This video is inspired by two brilliant books, Don't Even Think About It and The Uninhabitable Earth. Until next time.